Hey guys, it's Chris. So this is going to be one of my Game of Thrones Q&A videos for Season 6. Really appreciate all the questions and comments. I try to answer every comment online, but if you guys would like for me to start doing more Q&A videos, feel free to tag that in the comments, for the Q&A or something like that, and then I can kind of see that so I can answer it on a Q&A video for everybody's benefit. So again, appreciate all the comments, likes, shares, and subscribers. So let's get started. So our first question is from Colonel Keel. R plus L equals D. Wasn't Daenerys born on Dragonstone? And I think Jon is Azor Ahai because he is ice and fire, and that's what the book is about, ice and fire. Or maybe both Jon and Daenerys are Azor Ahai. So yeah, I guess I mentioned that in the Jon Snow Azor Ahai video, but I actually just did a video on the R plus L equals D theory. Now, I don't personally subscribe to that theory, but I think it was very interesting to put it out there because there are some problems with the timeline. As far as Dany's childhood, the house with the red door, and the lemon tree out front, how supposedly there's no lemon trees in Bravos where she supposedly grew up, and they are in Dorne. So I just did a video to that, literally released it just last night, so I'll post a link to that as well. Yeah, and I would have to agree. I think Jon is Azor Ahai, and perhaps Dany as well, and I also did a video on that, on the Azor Ahai prophecy and how Jon and Dany both fit all the signs of that prophecy, or at least most of them. The thing about prophecy is you can't take it too literally. I mean, what is prophecy? If somebody hears about a prophecy, can they fulfill it just because they hear about it and they go and do literal things to try to fulfill it? Or is it something that they've gone through and then look back and realize they've already fulfilled it? So prophecy is kind of a difficult thing to discuss, but I do think if there is a prophecy, if there is a rebirth of Azor Ahai, that it is obviously involving Jon and Dany right now, and possibly a third person, since there is an aspect of three heads to the dragon. And next we have Heather S., and she writes, remember in the books Melisandre glamours Mance to look like the wildling Rattleshirt and switch them, so Mance can be wandering around too. So yeah, in the books, Mance Rayder is still alive. He is actually down in Winterfell. Melisandre has used what's called glamoring in the books. We have not seen that in the show, so for show watchers you may or may not be familiar with the term glamoring, but it's essentially where Melisandre and Red Priest with this type of power can basically make somebody essentially skin change and look like somebody else. So in the books, Mance Rayder is alive and well, and the one who gets burnt is actually Rattleshirt, who in the show, Tormund Giantsbane killed at Hardhome. It's my opinion we're not going to see glamoring in the show. They haven't had really any hint of it. They do show the red ruby around Melisandre's neck, and so I do think that Melisandre is a lot older than she looks. Maybe they'll eventually do something in the show that has something to do with glamoring, but I don't think we'll see that just because as far as the TV show goes and time limits and time constraints, I just don't think it's necessary for the overall story. So I don't think we'll see glamoring. And next we have Turnin Mercer. And Turnin, by the way, I can't respond to any of your comments. Apparently you have the options set in your YouTube settings where no public replies are allowed, so I can only click like, and I can't even tag you in a comment to respond. So I apologize. I actually have responded, but you're probably not seeing the tag. So anyway, Turnin Mercer writes, would the half hand not count as a sacrifice as the Night's Watch take no wives? However, they are all brothers. So yeah, you're referring to Qhorin Halfhand, who was the ranger in the Night's Watch, who in the books joined Lord Commander Mormont's search party to find Benjen Stark, and then he takes Jon Snow and several others up to find Benjen further north, and they end up getting captured by wildlings, and in the show, he's the one that Jon killed to convince them that he was leaving the Night's Watch. So I think you're referring to the Azor Ahai prophecy about the potential sacrifice. I don't think that would count as a sacrifice. It was so long ago, and I think Qhorin actually sacrificed himself for the Brotherhood of the Night's Watch to get Jon in as a spy so he could find out what was going on. I see what you're saying, but I don't think that it has anything to do with the Azor Ahai prophecy and the potential sacrifice needed for that. And next we have Jordan Boone, and Jordan writes, I have a theory that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai and his sacrifice was Selyse, and I think you mean Shireen there, to wake dragons, which would be Jon Targaryen's rebirth from stone, Selyse's grayscale or stone skin, and that Jon Snow / Targaryen will become aware of Melisandre's sacrifice and order her death. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think Jon Snow is definitely related to Azor Ahai, and I've done a video on that. Again, I'll link all that below. I've actually thought about this Shireen sacrifice. I'm not sure that the grayscale has anything to do with it because she had that long before, although that could still kind of fit in with, I guess dragons, since it kind of looks like dragons, scales. You may be onto something in regards to the Shireen sacrifice because, Melisandre just sacrificed Shireen, and then she returns to the wall once she kind of has that look on her face when Stannis is about to get his ass whipped, and she returns to the wall. So I think she realized at that point that, hey, these aren't the droids I've been looking for, and heads back to the wall where she had felt something and knew something was special about Jon Snow. So it may be possible that she's still kind of pumped up on the blood magic from the sacrifice of Shireen, and she uses that to resurrect Jon, which is a lot of people's theory. She does mention one time to Jon that he will eventually need her. And again, a lot of these are about the Azor Ahai prophecy, and the theory, and the video I did is on that. But as far as the sacrifice thing, I kind of wanted to throw this in there. Just because the original Last Hero had a blood sacrifice where everybody knows the story of Lightbringer, where he sacrificed his wife Nisa, and her fire and soul and what have you went into the blade and became Lightbringer. I don't think just because that happened in the past for the Last Hero that the Azor Ahai figure reborn necessarily needs an official sacrifice. I mean, maybe not, we don't know, but it's not going to necessarily be another loved one. It could be, if you take it literally. My question about that is, if he already has a Valyrian steel sword that already kills White Walkers, then I don't necessarily think we need an actual magical, literal sword. Unless they want to add another magical element to the sword where it shoots out laser beams. I just want to throw that in there just to say that the sacrifice is not necessarily needed in order for Jon to be Azor Ahai. But I do think that possibly, as I mentioned in a previous comment there, that Jon Snow could be the dragon being awoken from stone, and you could take the stone as the wall itself. Perhaps he gets to the crypts of Winterfell, and that represents the stone, and he finds out there through a vision from Bran, who is now a Blood Raven. I think Bran's story, since he's now a Green Seer and has those abilities, will be tied into Jon finding out his identity one way or the other. And next we have Dark Abyss 483, and he writes, what about the Jorah Mormont theory? There is a theory out there that Jorah Mormont is Azor Ahai, or the prince that was promised, or whichever name you want to call the prophecy. And I actually like that theory. I may actually do a video. I thought about doing a video on some of these alternate theories, and again, I just did one on the R+L=D theory, but that's really more to do with Jon and Dany's parentage. And the reason I like the Jorah Mormont theory, and as well, there's also another one that I had thought about, Davos, the Onion Knight. If you look hard enough, you'll find anybody that fits a little bit of those prophecies. And as far as Jorah Mormont, what I think you're referring to is that, you know, Jorah was with Dany the whole time, so Dany basically fulfilled everything literally. Jorah was there, and Jorah, sweat and tears as far as the salt, he was amongst smoke. He was kind of reborn at that point where he really started truly believing in Dany as the mother of dragons and the rightful heir. And so I think that is interesting if you take one of these, you know, minor characters. I think that's what would be cool about it if somebody like Jorah or the Onion Knight or somebody was the savior of the world somehow, because it would just be out of left field, it'd be unexpected. And Jon Snow, people think, well, that would be too easy, so it's got to be somebody else we're not expecting. And I think that would be cool, and I'm open to that. If you think about it this way, the show makes it easier for Jon Snow to be Azor Ahai, or the prince that was promised. As a book reader, though, you have to kind of piece that stuff together throughout many, many books. But the show makes it a lot easier to see Jon Snow visually, as far as all the hints and stuff that they drop in the show. So I know somebody's going to ask about the dragon's blood. Well, the prophecy says you have to have blood of the dragon, but it doesn't say you have to have blood of the dragon in you. So if you think about it that way, which I think is a little bit of a stretch, but it is plausible. Jorah has Dany, so therefore he has the blood of the dragon. And last but not least, we have Unknown, and he writes, fuck Azor Ahai and Prince prophecies, just give Ramsay 20 good men to solve that shit. And I just threw that in there because I thought it was funny as hell. Absolutely. Whether you love him or hate him, Ramsay gets shit done. But hey guys, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the questions and comments. These are fun to do, and I'd love to continue to do these on Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, any of these shows. I'll also be doing a Star Wars question and answer video coming up. But in the meantime, click here for the video I just did on the R+L=D theory. And also for you Star Wars nerds, click here on the video I did on the history of the Sith and how Kylo Ren and this Supreme Leader Snoke may or may not fit into that history. Again, thanks for watching, you guys. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. A lot more coming. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.